partners, but what are your other team members that you use on a regular basis, maybe your vendors? Can you just describe them in generalities?
Attorney.
Without giving away your trade secret.
Attorney, for sure, because they're the ones that are going to get you in and out of contracts. A real estate agent that's not me, you know, depending on the asset, because, you know, obviously I'm a broker, I can sell stuff, but Brian has a whole different network of people for, you know, so if there's anything that's like, I mean, what ours is listed at $5 million right now, so if anything that big, I'd rather have Brian take care of it and Brian, you know, be able to negotiate and stuff like that. Our engineer, for sure, having an engineer, you know, you know, then you can break it down to, like, you know, a surveyor and a geotech and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And, of course, a contractor. We don't go as far as pulling permits, so we don't have a contractor. You know, obviously we know people that build for us that would just do all that kind of stuff. I think that's like, and I have a contract, you know, like a closing coordinator for just like admin stuff. I have a VA that I just use hourly if I need to.
Virtual assistant. Virtual assistant.
Yeah, virtual assistant. And
what about accounting?
I'll absolutely have an accountant. Yep. They do all my books, bookkeeping, everything. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Property managers.
Yeah.
Right. That's really. I mean, anything I can leverage to somebody else. Anything.
Right. Yep.
Well, you go where your strengths are, and you leverage everything else.
Well, that's the whole thing. It's like, you know, and I don't want to deal with. I mean, I don't want to deal with the rentals and like the light bulb. I don't, you know, send me a statement, whatever. If it's over $1,000, let me know, you know. But I just like doing acquisitions, and I've been doing it since the first day I started real estate. I've never even veered off of what I did, you know, as far as the way I do things. It hasn't changed at all. So like once it worked, I'm just like, you know. And every year you look through your client list, and it's like, well, what fat do I need to trim off of here? Because maybe this 80% it'll, you know, a lot of these type of deals, and just like, you know, making your focus just go down to really, really specific.
Yeah. And for a lot of our first-time folks, I think what he's saying is just so spot on, and that is, you know, make sure you have the right team members, but also make sure you one of the great things is about coming to these kind of events is you get to network with, you know, other investors, right? And so, you know, feel free to ask people, you know, questions. Who do you use for this? Who's a good real estate attorney that you've used, or whether it's CPA or you know, who do you use to take some land through
title company.
Title
company,
you know,
for sure.
It may be, you know, somebody from Catalyst, right? I mean, they're great.
Yeah.
You know, those guys
they're busy though, so
yeah, but they're very good. That's why they're busy. You know, so but you know, you just ask the questions of, hey, who do you use? You know, who have you found to be, you know, helpful? And you know, a lot of those things are how you find the team members.
If you're going to do land, it has to be area specific.
Yep.
Don't take a surveyor or an engineer from anywhere else that has not done something in that exact street or area.
Great
like
point.
You know, if you're going to hire an engineer, go onto whatever I mean, it's a lot of city agendas, and if they're doing rezones, like who is hiring, like go on that street and like what engineers are working on this street doing other projects.
Yep.
Because I mean, that will bury you the wrong engineer. Hundreds, thousands.
Yeah, I have a question kind of in relation to that, because you're talking about your team. So when you put something under purchase agreement, given just today, and I know it depends on market, how long it takes to get a surveyor out there or soil scientist or, you know, all of the things, your engineer in play, like how long of a due diligence period are you typically looking for from purchase agreement to close? I mean, it's all over the board, yeah.
So we have some standards. The first thing we want to do is if it needs a rezone or any type of entitlement. In Davidson County, you can see there are 3 readings, and you know when it's going to be approved, and we do like usually 10 or 14 days after that, right?
Yeah.
But before that, we'll have like a 90-day period within that, you know, because that's usually about 5 or 6 months. We'll have like whatever, 30, 60, 90 days, whatever we can get to hopefully get some of those answers before then, you know. And a lot of it is we figure out a lot even before we go under contract too. You know, our engineer will take it. Like nobody else's engineer will do that, but ours will take a quick look at it. If you can find somebody to help you with that, I mean, that's the hugest thing. It's like, here's this, what could I do, you know? Does that answer?
Yeah.
Yeah, so 30 to like 60, 90 will be like, you know,
120 days out or something.
Yeah, and it's tough because a lot of that's going to balance out with earnest money and what the sellers need too. I mean, it's all negotiating, but like you know, you have to have at least 60 days on a piece of dirt that's over like, you know, even a half an acre, you know. Because you got to wait for you know, but our contracts have, you know, it's like you have your due diligence, but you also have title, you know, so we have to wait on clear title, and we have to go through the title and look for anything. I mean, that's huge in land. I mean, we have a deal, I don't know, we have a deal right now that's just the whole thing is just like fixing old stuff on that was put together, like, you know, pulling the, you know, going to finding out you're in an HOA, didn't even know it, and then there's neighborhood stuff. And it's a, you know, look at the, so we have a period in our contract for, you know, remedying any title issues if needed, because, you know, we have to have full, you know, control of the property more or less.
And I think some of that, to your question, Courtney, too, is, you know, depends on, did they buy the, you know, land, was it just raw land right now, and now they have to go through the whole rezone entitlement?
Yeah, and that's if you're going direct to seller where they did nothing.
Yeah.
But then you have it, if it is entitled, then even with that, you still have, you know, for somebody that's buying, there's still, you know, you still have your due diligence period for them to come in and, you know, maybe confirm with maybe somebody like a Catalyst or
and you want to
your
put milestones in
and
it
all
too.
those
It's
things.
like, you know, they get to a certain point of due diligence that there's certain deposit that goes hard, you know, and then earnest money is, like, people are like, oh, earnest money doesn't mean anything, but it does. In this deal, they do, because A, it shows that they understand the value of the product, what you're doing, and the risk you're taking. You know, we've haggled, one time, I think we haggled over $20K. We didn't do the deal over that $20K earnest, and then, you know, we heard that whole company went through some stuff. It's just like, you can, you know, if they're willing to put like $100K earnest or 100, like, and milestone it out and built-in extensions, you know, at the end of our I mean, we get what? Usually try to get about 150, 200K at the end of that contract period if it doesn't close.
Yeah. And it just goes back to, you know, your whole negotiation on it, right? So even if it's entitled, you know, or, you know, it's titled already, they have that, you know, 60 days or so to do it, and that money, you know, then goes, that earnest money then goes hard. Well, they still have another, you know, probably 4 months to do before they can kind of get permits, right?
Yep.
But we negotiate it so that money is going hard after that
Yep.
first set of times.
And like, right, and all of our buyers, we make sure that they use our engineers to at least look. Your engineer either gets with our engineer, or you have to use our engineer that's done it. Like, that's why, like, these buyers, like, it's so specific. Like, buyers from other states that may be very qualified, if they've never done anything in your area, your district, brought anything through and tried to get like a grading permit or anything like that, I mean, they have to either, and we'll check up with them, and we'll even like have little certain points, like, you know, has a survey been ordered? You know, did the Alta come? Like, you know, so we're not, all those things we're waiting on, we're checking on all the time too, because we want them to be working.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, we don't want to, you know, when you have multi-million-dollar deals, you don't want to extend 30 days if you don't have to, but you build that in if you have to.
And the nice thing is that they, you know, to Greg's point, is, you know, they can say, hey, you know, Catalyst did this, here's who, and you can work with them and they'll help you do this, this, and this, right? Or here's who we use for engineering, whether, you know, whoever it is, and then geotech, you know, here's, and kind of to his point, if it's an out-of-state company that hasn't done business in Tennessee, you know, it's called the Rocky Top for a reason here, right? So, you know, if they haven't built here in Tennessee, you know, that geotech work is very important to know how much.
We do severely,
rock
heavily
into.
qualify our buyers.
Yep. Yeah. And that's why I think, you know, that's why I enjoy working with Greg and Ryan, because they know, you know, and they're great because I like what they do from the standpoint of, okay, I bring a buyer to them for one of their pieces of property. They basically say to me, okay, Brian, all right, let's get on a conference call with these guys. So they want to understand what they're wanting to do, what their time in, what their experience. I mean, they're basically pre-qualifying them as a buyer.
And where does the money come from? What are their qualifications? What is your yield count? Are you expecting with this type of product and price? And what is your, I mean, all the way down to what footprint you're using to like making sure their unit, I mean, we make sure that they really, really know the project.
Right.
And we come with all the encumbrances and everything either taken care of and very easily explained.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that's another thing too. It's like if you're asking me about the stuff I gave you before 2 months later, then we're going to dig through everything.
Yeah, so several hands up back here. Tommy?
Sure. Yeah, I guess, so you talked a little bit about business plan and strategy and, you know, switching to development during a housing shortage, right? That's very intelligent. But for I guess for like the next 5 years, like, do you see yourself pivoting from this, like maybe changing asset classes or moving away?
I mean, I never do just one thing. Like I probably pivot every year, you know, until right? Maybe it's 2 years, you know. But I just know that as long as I can do acquisition, I can do any asset class in any state. So it's like, you know, I'll just let it play its course. You know, 5 years, I have no idea what I'll be doing. I didn't know what I was doing 5 years ago. I mean, if you would ask me, I'd be living in Florida and have like, you know, this massive investment portfolio, I would have laughed, you know. So it's like, yeah, I mean, yeah, you're going to pivot with the market, for sure.
Michael?
Yeah, I was curious about when you were analyzing the land deals to get those 7-figure profits you were talking about, are you more looking for properties you think you can rezone or ones that are underutilized for ones as they're currently zoned?
Both. Like if they're commercially zoned with a dwelling on it and it's, you know, maybe adaptive residential or, I mean, it could be CS, CL, any of those, you know, commercial zonings. Those, yeah, but so you may not have to go through a rezone, but you're still going to have to do a lot of work to put a site plan together. Like, you know, we have one right now where we're going to have, you know, it's perfect zoning, everything, but we're going to have to split off a house. We're going to have to record an easement. We're going to have to, like, you know, do some work to it, you know, maybe do a BZA or something like that. But, you know, getting site plans together is a big thing on those commercial ones. And those are usually the smaller ones. The larger ones are the ones that, you know, usually you have to rezone that's already in a residential area and you're going to rezone it to like a multifamily or commercial, you know, because a lot of the really big parcels are not commercial, they're all residential. So if you're, you know, when you're going out of town, you know, you're in more of a residential area. So if you look at your policies and you see like, you know, a neighborhood maintenance policy, you can kind of just see like they're all mostly single families, right? And then you usually have like a transition period or like, you know, into another policy, either transition to it or just be right there. And those are the ones that you kind of want because those are going to have the same single family usage as the neighborhood maintenance policy, more or less, but they're only going to have like a house or something on it. Like you've driven down Trinity Lane, I mean, there's houses on 20 acres everywhere. I mean, I don't even know how a lot of that stuff got built, but it's like,
yeah,
you know.
Well, and then, so I'm going to make, when we're talking about picking the right team and working with the right people, so I'm going to, you know, if you guys will, you know, allow me to do this, I'm going to brag on my wife, Jana. So it's good to work with a brokerage that has experts in the brokerage itself. And to Greg's point about, you know, hey, yeah, you know, I may be a realtor, but you know what? There's other people out there that are experts in certain things, right? And so, you know, one of the things I got to hand it to Greg is, so he came to us a few months back and said, hey, we bought this piece of property. Here's what we think, you know, the best use of this property is, right? And so he said to Jenna, you know, I know obviously you're a former commercial real estate appraiser, and part of what you do is figure out what the highest and best use of this property is, right? And so sometimes we'll have people come and they've been told, hey, we think this is the highest and best use, and while that, you know, what they had chosen was a great use for that, you know, Jana was also able to help him say, hey, you know what, here's another great use for this, and here's even another one, right? And so, Greg was like, hey, you know what, we hadn't even necessarily thought of those, but you know what, you're right, and so that's why it's important to
Back it up with numbers.
back it up with
Yeah.
numbers, but also to surround yourself with, the right people that can, help you as an investor and help, provide the education and make sure that, you're gonna get the best, use and the top dollar out of whatever property, that is that you
Yeah.
may be using. So.
And it's like, it's nice when you have that large of a property.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good to be the owner, but like I want a buffer in between me and my buyer.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to make a decision if they call me. I don't want to have to, deal with what they're going through on their due diligence and check up with them and stuff like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
So for me, I love, not having that load of, just listing one property that's,
Yeah.
I mean, you're kind of attached to it, and I have my, my track vision on it. Well, I know what I can do with it. It's much easier for you to
Yeah.
not have that
Right.
and be able to, think of other uses.
Yep. Yep.
The misconception that I think a lot of people have is that land is the easiest. And, tell us whether that's true or not.
It's not. It's not it's not at all. I mean, you've got. If it's on real tracks, I kind of wonder if they, know what they're doing, kind of thing, because a lot of these properties are not really, I don't. And that's the hardest part is, the people that are listing them. I mean, no real estate agent. I mean, I mean, I may know how to do land development, but I am not an engineer.
Yeah.
Just like I'm not a home inspector or any of that. So I don't, say like, yeah, here, this is what it is,
Yeah.
So how politically involved have you had to be? Because you're talking about policy a lot. So do you get to know the council people?
You have to.
Okay.
You have to make, our business model is based on council district only. Yep. So
It's a really important point.
it's massive because, it's so much work to do all these community meetings and stuff because you have to do a community meeting every time. You have to do certain things.
Yep.
So it's nice that now we could get on the phone with her and be like, hey, this is what we got going on. Can we throw it on the next meeting? Or like she understands us as a business too. They know that we help the community, they come after us with needing stuff from us as developers and we're always open to help and we support them as much as we can. We're good to work with and, they're great to work with too. The ones that we're working with,
Well, and I think that's a very, very good point, because especially in Nashville, it's, it is, we'll have people bring and they'll say, hey, we want to do this on the piece of, this piece of land. One of the first questions we'll ask them is, have you talked to your local
Yeah.
council person, right?
Yeah.
Because are they going to support this or not, right? Because if they're not going to support it, you might as well change what you want to do or
Oh,
don't
yeah.
buy that piece
Yeah.
of property, right? Because they will tell you, because they're usually very much in touch with
right.
the community, in that neighborhood, and they
And here, I mean, like,
they know what's gonna.
and like, it's
what
not
they
like
want
they
and
can
what they don't want,
completely
so.
control it either.
Right.
So it's like, there's council at large that could go to bat for you in certain districts.
Yeah.
But if you have to go that route, you better have something that's going to change the community.
Yeah.
If you're going to have, because a lot of times, like you'll hire your attorneys and your engineers and everybody to fight that battle for you. We fight our own battles, but along with them.
Mhm.
But theoretically, you can hire your attorney and your engineer to do the whole battle for you.
Yep.
When it gets to, you're talking with city planners and city managers and city attorneys and
Yep.
what nobody can interpret a plat, and an easement or something like that.
Yeah. When it gets.